Speaking to a global audience of policymakers, business leaders, and diplomats Thursday, Akol challenged the current structure of the UNSC, pointing out that Africa, with a population surpassing Europe's, remains sidelined in global decision-making, implying that decisions on economic sanctions and arms embargoes on member states from the continent are made without their involvement. St. Petersburg, South Sudan's Minister of Transport, Dr. Akol, made a case for Africa's inclusion as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council UNSC during a plenary session on Russia-Africa relations at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum speaking to a global audience of policymakers, business leaders, and diplomats Thursday. Akol challenged the current structure of the UNSC, pointing out that Africa, with a population surpassing Europe's, remains sidelined in global decision-making, implying that decisions on economic sanctions and arms embargoes on member states from the continent are made without their involvement. Africa's population is bigger than Europe's, yet we have no permanent seat, Akol said in a statement posted by the Ministry of ICT and Postal Services, directing his remarks to Russian officials present at the forum. Why can't Africa be given a permanent seat on the UN Security Council? We deserve the right to have the power of veto, so it is not used against us all the time. The continent, home to 1.4 billion people and 54 nations, has long argued that the current structure of the UNSC, established in 1945 with 5 permanent members, the United States, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, and France, is outdated and unrepresentative. 3 of these permanent members are European, a point Akol emphasized to underscore the imbalance. Akol also tied Africa's lack of representation to issues of sovereignty and equitable partnerships. When doing business with Africa, the question of sovereignty must be taken seriously, he urged the forum. He argued that Africa's often unfavorable terms in international agreements stem from a history of subordination in global institutions like the UN. We cannot continue to be dictated to by structures that do not reflect our realities, he added. The minister further highlighted the need for education and capacity building to enable African nations to better harness technologies offered by partners like Russia. Africa needs education to understand and implement these technologies effectively, Akol said, signaling a desire for partnerships that prioritize knowledge transfer over dependency. Russia, a key player in Africa's geopolitical landscape, has expressed support for UNSC reform in principle but stopped short of endorsing specific proposals. Moscow's growing engagement with Africa through initiatives like SPIF and the Russia-Africa Summit has focused on energy, infrastructure, and defense cooperation.